All right. Just want to give a big welcome to everyone who's joining us today. I'm Elaine Christian with the City of West Palm Beach Office of Sustainability, and we have Chelsea Odom with us today. She is the Director of Education, is that correct?
Correct.
With Resource Depot, and we are so excited to be partnering with them on this workshop for an upcycled cork board or jewelry holder, really whichever way you'd like to take it. And hopefully you guys have all been able to collect your materials, but if not, I know Chelsea's going to just walk us through it so you can get some tips. And this video or the recording of today's program will be posted, and we'll send it out to everyone who is registered. If you are attending today and you have not received an email from me though, that means I don't have your email address. So if you can, in the chat, send it to me so that I can follow up with you after the program and send you a copy of the recording and any important links, you know, from Resource Depot or from the City of West Palm Beach, the Office of Sustainability. I'll go over a few of our programs that we have going on. We have a lot of free resources too, so we'll go over that a little bit at the end. I want to get to the fun stuff though, so I'm going to hand it off to Chelsea now, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen so now we can see what it's all about.
Awesome. And in case you guys aren't familiar with Zoom, I believe you can change the format your view is in. So whoever is talking will be the biggest view instead of the gallery view where everyone is tiny. That's usually more helpful in a workshop scenario because then you're seeing me, I guess. And at some point I'm going to turn the screen down so you actually will look at my hands when I'm doing things instead of my face. But hello, everybody. I met a few of you when you picked up your kits. So I was very excited to have you come visit us. If you've never come to Resource Depot, I know we have someone from Venice, Florida on the call with us. So that is exciting, but Resource Depot is a great place. We're so happy to join up with the city. So if you haven't come by, this Saturday is a great time tomorrow. I am dressed down because we are busy setting up. We have our first event since COVID. It's going to be a maker's market outdoors in our parking lot. We're going to have outdoor vendors that have handmade goods. So if you've never come by, you should stop by tomorrow. And I think the city also has something going on. Tree giveaway?
Yes, we have a tree giveaway going on. You actually had to pre-register for that. So unfortunately it's closed, but we do have more scheduled, which I'll talk about after we do it.
Sorry, it might be a little, you might hear some random noise. I'm on an upper level, we're on a loft, and all my coworkers are downstairs moving things around. So those of you that came and picked up a kit, you should have gotten a nice baggie full of cut corks, a variety of different cuts. We tried to just, because we don't know what design you want to do, so we tried to just give you a variety, so hopefully you have all that you need. And then everybody picked out a picture frame. I found this random frame, it had some broken pieces on it downstairs, so I decided I'd use it for the workshop because it was broken. And we cut backs for all the frames. I did recommend that you pre-paint your picture frame. If you have not done that, you can do it afterwards. And then the backing was a political sign, so they had all this writing on it. You can either cover it with paper or tape, or you can paint it, just because when you put the corks down, they do tend to look, you do see some of it. This is our sample that we made. So you see a little bit shines through. So if you haven't painted and you want to quickly put like some paper down or some tape on your backing, you could do that. If it's just brown and you don't care that it shows through, then you're fine. So you could do this project two ways. One is just like a regular old cork board. Well, not regular, it's very exciting with this. Or a little jewelry holder. So we have these corks that stick out so that you could like hang a bracelet or a necklace. And then we also added little hooks. You don't have to add the hooks, but you can, and they can hold rings and also bracelets, necklaces. And then earrings can poke into the cork. You may need to take like an awl or a needle and poke a little hole first, and then the earring should slide in easier. So that's the jewelry holder. The only difference in these two versions is just the things sticking out and the hooks. Otherwise, you're essentially making the same thing, which is why we're giving you guys the option to do which you would like. So The craft is started by painting the frame, prepping your back. So then you get to this stage. My frame is very decorative. Most people's frames were plain. This is the only one we had and it was broken. So if you were doing this project all on your own, you'd obviously have to collect a bunch of corks. Resource Depot often has corks that people donate. And we cut them 2 ways. We cut them in half like this, and then we cut them into little slices like when you chop a carrot. So there's 2 types of corks. There's your natural cork, which comes from the bark of a tree, and then there's a synthetic cork, which is like a foam. If you are starting without having the prep, you can actually glue the whole cork on. We just cut them because it looks a little slimmer, but if you don't want to cut all the corks, you can glue the whole cork on. You don't have to cut it. But I'm going to show you how to cut it for those of you that want to. With the natural corks, it's actually better to steam them, like with a vegetable steamer. So you just steam them and cut them when they're warm, and they cut much easier. If you cut them when they're not warm like that, they're just really brittle and hard to cut. The synthetic corks, you don't have to steam, they cut much easier. So I'm going to show you really quickly on a synthetic cork just how to cut it if you have corks and they are not cut, or if you want to do this project again and you're starting from scratch. And if anybody, yes, so if you're on the call, I just saw a question in the chat, and you would like to pick up the kit that was for this session, you are more than welcome to stop by and pick it up. Wednesdays, our hours are not 11 a.m. to 7 p.m., so you could stop by. Okay, so if you have your corks, I recommend using a box cutter. So I'm just going to show you how to cut them. Again, you don't have to cut them if you're starting from scratch, but I think they look a little better. And you don't need as many corks when you cut them. So box cutter, and then you want to cut either on a cutting board, or if you're a crafter and you have a self-healing mat, if you don't have either of those things, a piece of cardboard just to protect your tabletop. So I'm going to turn my screen down, and if anybody has any questions, feel free to turn your mic on and ask, or you can write in the chat. And I will try and answer your questions. If I move too fast and you want me to repeat something, please let me know. So I'm going to turn my screen down. There we go. So I have my self-healing mat here, and I have my box cutter. So we cut it lengthwise like this. So it's a little tricky, but you just want to make sure you're not having your fingers in. I've seen tutorials online where people do this with like a serrated kitchen knife too. So you can do that. And you just kind of hook it along. If you have a knife with a longer blade, it may be easier, but I feel more secure with the box cutter than I do with like a kitchen knife. So I just sort of made a cut all the way along, and I'm just following it all the way through. So as you can imagine, this is the most time-consuming part of the activity. So that's how you cut it in half, really easy. And then when you want to do it, the little circles, you're cutting it like a carrot. And then you sort of just want to have about probably 1/4 of an inch, because you don't want it to be too thin, because you want to be able to poke stuff into it. So sort of just go around, and you just kind of rotate the cork. You don't even really have to move your knife. And you get a nice little slice just like that. And you get about, depending on how thick your slices are, you get about 5 to 6 or 4, depending if you have thinner slices, from one cork. So when you cut the corks, you're using less than when you're gluing a whole cork, but you totally can do that. So that's how you cut the corks. I wanted to show you guys, but you all should have a lovely bag of randomness, and hopefully you have all that you need in there. If you have not done so yet, the next thing you're gonna need, and even if you don't want to cut your corks, having a box cutter around or a kitchen knife is nifty, because as you start to glue, you may need to like trim a cork to get it to fit in a space. So keep this handy. So the next thing we're going to do is arrange our cork board. If you're going to use hot glue, make sure you go ahead and plug in your hot glue so it's nice and warmed up. But you are also welcome to use tacky glue, wood glue, a super glue of your choosing. Any kind of glue will work, just something a little stronger than Elmer's glue. Although Elmer's glue probably would work, you want it to have a little bit more hold. So I'm going to use hot glue today just because I already have my glue gun plugged in, but you can use whatever kind you want. And my surface we went ahead and did, we just put a piece of like sticky paper on the back here to cover over what was back there. So I have my surface. Before you start gluing, you have to decide what you want your design to be. So in my sample, I did sort of a rotating design all the way around, and then I decided to do the circles in the middle. You could do a pattern, you could alternate, it depends on what variety of corks you have too. Aside from cutting, figuring out your pattern is the next hardest part. Otherwise, this craft is very easy. So this frame was like a weird shape, so my design worked for that. This one is a regular rectangle, so I may just decide to do my corks all one direction. So one thing you can do, you dump your corks out, and then you can kind of, and you have a few whole corks for doing the jewelry part of it. If you don't end up using them, that's fine. You don't have to use them. But you can decide what you want your design to be. Reposition a little bit. So, and the reason the cut corks also work a little bit better is because you're dealing with a flat surface to glue on instead of a rounded surface. So they're gonna have more stickability, but the rounded surface will stick. And the good thing about this is if you make it and like, I don't know, next year or next week or a couple months and a cork falls off, all you have to do is reglue it. No big deal. So maybe I want to do like an alternating design. And some corks are longer than other corks, so that's something to keep in mind. Like I can alternate like this, like 2 this way, 1 this way, 2 this way, 1 this way, maybe. And I have a weird lip on here. I may glue stuff on there too. So basically you're just laying out what you want your design to be. Just like that. And then maybe I'll do a line of, I don't know, something like that. But really you can do whatever kind of design you want. It doesn't have to be one thing or the other. I don't know if I'll glue up here or not. I guess I will. So as you can see, I'm running into my edge here and the cork goes over top of it. So that's going to be a cork I'm going to want to cut so that it'll fit within my frame. So that's the thing you have to, so these corks on the edge I'm going to have to cut because they're too long in my frame. But I'm going ahead and laying them out anyways. And then once I get my design laid out, I'll cut them. So yeah, this part is the next longest thing because you might do a design and then you start to lay it out and you decide you don't like it and you have to start all over. I'm going to try and do this quickly. And I recommend getting it laid out before you start gluing, unless you're just doing a very simple straight corks. Just because if there's any issues with the design, you need to cut stuff, whatever. Stuff needs to shift a little bit as you get it laid out. It will already have its issues resolved before the glue starts.
Chelsea, could you show the jewelry board one again? We had a question. And we just did a border of solid corks in the middle with cut corks, but you could do it all solid. I don't know if you have enough slices to do all slices, but you could do it either way. And then we just decided where space-wise for the ones that stick out. So that's something to think about if you are doing a jewelry one. Where do you want, and you don't have to use these, you could use hooks the whole way.
I only gave you a couple hooks, but you're welcome to add more later. But yeah, you have to make the decision of where you want these to be. And honestly, you could put this in a normal cork board even, and it could hold like lanyards and stuff. I don't know. So yeah. And this one, we chose a picture frame that actually had a, it doesn't hang, it can sit. But some of the frames don't have hanging hardware, so that's something to think about after you deal with your frame, is how you're going to display it. What kind of hanging hardware or what direction you want it to go to. I've done all my frames vertical, but you could do them horizontal too. It just depends on what space you have. So yeah, that's our little jewelry setup. So yeah. So we're just laying out our design. And then the next part after this, we are going to glue our corks, if you didn't already guess that. I'm trying to move quickly so that I can get everything shown to you guys. Again, this craft is not too hard once you got the basic idea down. And like I said, we did the hard part for you by cutting the corks. Although you doing it yourself means you have exactly what corks you want. So we might have given you corks and you're like, I don't want any of these circle corks, or, but we just tried to give you a variety so that you could choose stuff. And corks are very versatile. And if you drink a lot of wine and want to collect corks for us, we will take them. So again, I'm laying out my design and it's sticking over my frame because I'm going to cut them. And yours doesn't have to be a pattern. You could do the top all regular corks and the bottom all circle corks. You can do whatever kind of, it could be asymmetrical. It does not have to be an even design. And if you want to leave gaps and show a design underneath, you can totally, whoops, what am I doing? You can totally do that. So I've got my pattern going. I'm almost done filling it in. My glue gun is nice and hot and ready to go. I tend to pick complicated things. I probably could have picked something simpler. And again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to turn your mic off and say something or write in the chat.
Hi, I'm definitely going to start collecting my wine corks. Do you have any other ideas of like other projects you could do with cork?
Yes, most definitely. We are doing an activity. Do you have kids?
No, I don't. Okay.
If you have kids, there's lots of kids activities you can do with corks. We're making little boats with them. We're making some ornaments for the holidays tomorrow, actually. I will go grab a sample one for you to see. So we got little eye hooks and stuck them in our corks, and we're decorating them with beads and painting them and making them little weird ornaments or keychains or whatever. So you can do that kind of thing. We've made Christmas trees out of them, snowflakes, gluing them into shapes. When you cut them into slices like this, you can actually stamp on them with like an inked stamp, and you can turn them into jewelry. You can ink something and turn it into a cork board like this and it says something. You can make stamps out of them by cutting into them and making a pattern. So there's a lot of stuff you could do with corks. Just depends on what kind of craft you're looking for, I guess. But they work really well to stick stuff into because they're so porous and squishy. I've seen people make floor mats out of them. So they make a frame with wood and then glue them in, and then it's like that because they're like, because they make flooring out of cork. So yeah, almost done with my design. And then we will glue and trim our corks. The cutting of all these corks took us a couple days. So if you're doing this project completely from scratch, make sure you give yourself some time. Because also if you want to paint your frame, that needs to dry if it needs more than one coat. And then cutting all the corks. I would say it took us a good solid day to make our samples, or at least a work day. And again, I will make that video and post that soon. So, and as I get to the bottom of my design here, I have this gap that's forming. So I might, you could just leave it as a gap, maybe you evenly space your corks and have a gap on both sides, or you have to cut a bunch of tiny corks to go in there. You can decide how you want to do it. I like to be complicated, so I'll probably cut a bunch of tiny corks to fill in that gap. But that's just me. And, you know, maybe the easier way out on some of your frames is doing that border, because then you don't have to worry about cutting any corks on the inside or on the outside, maybe just on the inside. Depends on how evenly spaced, I guess, things are. One this way, one that way. All right. Ta-da! So I'm gonna lift my screen up. So I have my entire cork board filled. My entire picture frame is filled with corks. And I have all these corks that are overlapping on the edge that I'm gonna need to trim. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna start my gluing process, because I have my design laid out. So I'm gonna start from one side and just work my way down and over, so I'm not confused as to what I've glued or what I haven't glued. So that means I'm gonna go ahead and cut these corks here that are on the edge of my design. And this is our workshop space that I'm in right now, if anyone ever comes to Resource Depot. Although we haven't had any in-person workshops since last spring. Everything has been virtual, although we may have some small groups perhaps in the near future. All right, so I'm gonna set this aside, leave some room for cutting, and then I have my glue gun here. So I think I'm gonna scooch my design up a little bit. So I have less to cut, hopefully. All right, so I have this corner piece and it's overlapping about right there. I'm gonna grab a marker real quick. So I'm gonna use this marker as I have my corks laid out in my design, so I know where to cut. So it's overlapping my edge of my frame right there, so I'm gonna just draw a little line on it. So that way I know where to cut it. This is not an exact science, but it does work. So I'm gonna cut this piece off. And just give it a little cut. Ta-da. So I'm gonna glue my first piece down. And you wanna put a decent amount of glue because you don't, in theory, want it to come off. So you may have to move other corks out of your way and just kind of glue it down like so. And so in theory, this workshop was supposed to end at 12:45, I think. This project is probably gonna take you longer than that. Unless you have a small frame or you're really, really fast. And that's okay, because I'm showing you guys all that you need to know for the most part. Before we end, I'll make sure I'll show you any wrapping up things, even if I haven't glued all of my corks down. But basically, you're just going through the steps. You're cutting, you're gluing, and your pattern.
Excuse me,
Yes.
I have a question. Hi.
Sure.
So for if I want to put the jewelry hooks, do you,
So
sorry.
you can, they just screw right in. You can do it before you glue your corks down or afterwards. I think we did ours afterwards. And we literally just didn't do anything except place and screw them. The cork is pretty soft, but it's also porous, so it does hold them really well. So we just screwed them right in.
Okay.
And I think we did it after we laid out our design. And then, yeah, they just screw right in. And then again, if you're doing your jewelry thing, you can think about if you want to do the corks that stick out too. And those are glued in. If you were placing really heavy things on them and you had a good backing, you could take a screw and screw them in from behind. But for like necklaces and bracelets, I think the glue is fine. They shouldn't break off.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, and then when I finished, I had my, step a little bit. So when I finished, I added a little hanging hook on the back here so that I could hang it on a wall. And then as you can see, I just taped it in because not all the frames I was using had little things to hold your backing in anymore because all of the frames we get are donated. So we just taped ours in and it's been fine so far. My frame is a weird size, so flips don't fit well. So yeah, they don't have to be fit tight, Sarah. Sarah asked if the corks have to fit really tightly. They don't have to. You could space them out if you want. If you don't want to do all the cutting that I am doing, you could just space them out in your pattern. And if you have gaps in the back and it shows whatever backing you have and you're fine with that, that's totally fine. The tighter they are, the more stuff you could potentially put on your board, like tax-wise. But yeah, if you don't want to deal with all that cutting, you don't have to. You can arrange it however you want. But the cutting isn't too hard. Sorry. Well, I think it's not hard. Other people may have a different opinion, and that's okay too. So yeah, my corks are alternating here, so I'm just giving them a little trim, and I just glue them. So yeah. This is also a great gift idea. If you made this one for yourself, it's not hard to replicate as a gift to give somebody. I appreciate handmade gifts. And as you cut corks, sometimes the ends that you cut off and didn't end up using can benefit you later in other spaces. So make sure Was that a question? Did somebody ask a question? I couldn't, no? So again, I'm putting a decent amount of glue on there. And then you just want to press firmly, try and get rid of any glue strings. And then you just go along. My design is slightly off, that's okay. So I'm just cutting. And if you started to trim any of these, you will definitely tell the difference between the two, the synthetic and the natural cork. That's another thing that could create your pattern. is, so for this one, I alternated synthetic and natural corks. I don't know that it really makes a big of difference when they're sideways like this. When the little circles happened, you can tell the difference because the textures and the colors look different. So that could create your pattern too, if you're struggling with the pattern. So yeah, you just glue away. So other than cutting the corks, the design and the gluing are the thing that take the longest. But you maybe, my coworker and I were working on the jewelry board and the cork board at the same time, and she had the jewelry board, which was smaller and more simple of a design, and she finished way before I did. When I post the video, you will see that she's done, and I'm gluing for quite much more time. Also, if you are an avid wine drinker, because somebody asked me about other activities for corks, if you have some really pretty corks, you can make wine stoppers out of them. We use the heads of old trophies, and you can stick them in the cork, and then they make like decorative wine stoppers. So you could make wine stoppers as gifts for yourself. So as you can see, this is not a quick process. I'm still in my first row. I've also been talking the whole time. Oh, I should change my name. I'm on my boss's account, so it has my boss's name. Not that that matters, but I'll do it. Yeah. Awesome. That's great, Missy. So Missy said the clubhouse will save all of her corks for her. Yeah, if you have a local bar or a restaurant that you like to go to, and you're not a wine drinker, they will totally probably save corks for you. I'm sure they go through a lot of them. And we pass no judgment here at Resource Depot when you bring us a big bin of corks. So like I said, all of our donations come from either individuals like you guys or from organizations. So when it's from individuals, they will, when it's recyclable type items like corks or pop tabs or interesting containers, we usually ask people that are collecting stuff to collect a decent amount before they bring it. So that way it's just easier for us to stock. And also a mass amount is more useful for somebody shopping with us, getting materials. All right, I have my first row glued. Doesn't look much different. So I cut all my corks, nice line right there. And now I'm gonna glue my little circle pieces that I have. I think I actually need a glue stick. Yep, let me grab a new glue stick. Oh. And my glue stick's tucked away. Come on. There we go. And in theory, if you were using like a wood glue or a tacky glue, you could coat your whole surface if you knew your design and place your corks on the wet glue. You already had them cut and everything, instead of gluing them one by one, because the glue would dry clear. But this to me seems a way of getting it a little bit more precise. But again, if you're going with a loose design where you're not cutting anything, maybe that's an easier way for you to do it. So yes, somebody asked about laying them down on a strip of glue. So yes, I answered that question without even knowing you asked it. Yes, you could do that. You could do a whole line of glue. It's just hot glue dries really quickly, but if you were using another kind of glue, yes, you could totally do that. That's funny. Thanks, Savannah. My coworker is taking pictures. So yeah, this is essentially how you make a cork board out of wine corks, or a jewelry holder, depending on which you're making. Which again, you could easily, if you make just a cork board and you decide later, hey, I really want this to hold jewelry or something, you can get those little hooks at the hardware store and just screw them in, and voila, you have a jewelry holder. Even if you don't put any corks glued in like this. So just remember, if you do want these to hold bracelets and stuff, to glue those in whole. I think we tried to give everybody a variety so that you had things to choose from. And if anyone's interested and wants to know what this circle cork is in the middle, it's from a Patron bottle. So if you're a tequila drinker, those are really nifty corks. So yeah. And Elaine, I don't know, because I can continue doing this all day, but I don't know if at a certain point you want to call it for people to ask questions or to state whatever end comments you have. But this is the basics of how to do it, and basically the rest of the workshop is just continuing on with doing that.
Yeah, I think we could start taking any questions that anyone has. Anyone does have any questions? And just ask if you'd like.
But yeah, so I got my second line glued of all circles. I'm going to continue on.
What time is the Makers Market tomorrow?
So tomorrow our Makers Market is 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Normally on Saturdays we're only open to 2, but because we have a special event, we are open until 4. And we have about 13, 14 vendors outside in our parking lot. So, and we're requiring everyone to wear masks and honor social distancing. And then inside our building, we'll be counting, we won't have more than 25 people in the building at a time. We'll have our normal shopping available. And we have about 7 vendors in our gallery space that have consigned work. And the consigned work will be here. If you can't make it to the Makers Market, you could come during the week, and the consigned work in the gallery will be there all week. So there'll be at least 7 vendors you could choose from inside the maker space, our gallery space. So if you've never come to Resource Depot, tomorrow would be a really good day to do it. We will not be taking donations tomorrow because of our event. And we have 2 food vendors. We have a churro lady and then like a shave ice truck will be there. So it's really fun.
Party.
And they've recently renovated where we are. So there's a bunch of new places that have popped up. Some are open, some aren't. We have a new record store right in the same block that we're in. There's a salon, there's a gym, bunch of new places. There's a coffee shop, but I don't think it's open yet. I'm hoping for that one to open. so that we can get coffee.
And Missy asked about, is there a website where all these things happen? She wants to be more involved, and definitely I will be sending out a follow-up email to everyone, which will include the websites for the Office of Sustainability, the Resource Depot website, and also our social media too. I know Resource Depot is really active on social media, as well as the Office of Sustainability. So there's lots of great resources out there. And we'll definitely pass those along with the follow-up email. And you guys are always, I'll also include Chelsea's contact info, if you're okay with that, Chelsea.
Yes, of course.
So you guys can follow up with us individually too if you have any specific questions.
Yeah, in terms of, we haven't, like I said, we haven't had very many in-person workshops. And I'd love to do something with the city again. I think it's lots of fun. But yeah, anything that we're doing is either on our website or social media or both places. And I know the same goes for the city. And we have a newsletter you can enroll into. If we're lucky, we send it out once a month if we're on top of things, but usually not too much more than that. I know a lot of people get a lot of emails. So there's always resistance to signing up for those. And I think the city also has a newsletter, correct?
Yes. So in the Office of Sustainability, so the city has kind of their main email newsletter that goes out, but the Office of Sustainability also does a more specific one to our programs and what we have going on. And so I believe it was on the registration page if you guys wanted to sign up for that. So regardless, you'll be able to either tell me or you'll be subscribed. I'm pretty sure it was on the registration page, but I'll double check. But we will send out the newsletter info in that follow-up email too. So you guys will be getting all of the info if you want it. You guys can
Sarah said that, I don't know which board she had. Most people had the plastic corrugated board. Sarah, you may have had something different. Yeah, certain boards, when you paint them, you got to watch out because they will buckle a little bit. The plastic board shouldn't, but if it's a cardboard or a paper-based one, they can buckle. And happy birthday, Sarah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah, we can hang out for a while. If people want to make with me, I'm totally fine with that while I finish up this craft. And you can ask questions, or if we want to wrap it up and say goodbye, we can do that. And if anyone has questions before we leave, but yeah, that's.
Well, I'm fine to stay on until 1 if you are, Chelsea. I'll just while we're still kind of making our craft here, I'll just kind of go over some of the things that I wanted to talk about quickly before the end of the program. Because like I said, we have a lot of, if you like today's program, I will say this is a really awesome workshop that we partnered with Resource Depot for. We have not done one of these before, so we're really excited to offer something different. And I hope to do something else similar to this in the future, again, with Resource Depot. And especially, if you guys are thinking of other holiday gifts for any relatives or friends or things like that, there's so many ideas. If you just go to Resource Depot, I think you just all of a sudden, just things start coming to you. At least for me, they do. And I know the staff there at Resource Depot is always very helpful with ideas and other things like that. So I'll just, oh, that took you away, I think, Chelsea.
That's okay. I think they know what I'm doing.
I'll go through this really quickly. Something else that we have that's upcycled is our rain barrels. So we do a rain barrel giveaway. They're 55-gallon rain barrels to City of West Palm Beach water customers. We have one, I think, at least about every month. Our next one is December 12th. So if you are interested, go ahead and fill out the application or registration form for that. Visit our webpage, wpb.org/savewater. And a great way to just save the rain that's falling on your roof and normally would be going down into the storm drain. You can really reduce your water usage by using a rain barrel. We also have free tree giveaways. Just kind of want to throw that out there because we did kind of mention that earlier. We do have a tree giveaway tomorrow, but everyone had to register beforehand. our next one is going to be on January 16th, which is when we're going to be celebrating Florida Arbor Day. So it's kind of a special day. And the reason that we ask you to apply and register beforehand is so that you can pick out your trees and tell us what kind of trees you want so that we can load them up and meet you in the designated pickup location, which is always a parking lot. This Saturday, we're going to be at Manatee Lagoon. On January 16th, I want to say we're at Gaines Park, but that information will be included on the registration page. And also next Friday, we have another program, Florida's Unwanted Invasive Animals with the University of Florida's Croc Doc. So kind of a different, definitely a different topic here, but something interesting that you might be wanting to attend as well. And that has a separate registration, which, again, all of these links and everything will be sent out in the follow-up email. And this is us, the Office of Sustainability, our webpage and social media, which again, will be sent out in that email. So I will stop sharing. If you guys have any questions, just let me know or Chelsea know, and we'll plan on staying on for a few more minutes until 1.
Yeah, the rain barrel program I think is super awesome. I have a bunch of barrels at my house that I still need to convert into rain barrels.
Oh, I didn't mention, I said they were upcycled, but I didn't say from what. They used to be syrup barrels for like soda. So they used to have, I think it was like Mountain Dew in most of them, but they've been triple rinsed. They were food grade, so they are safe to, use for your garden. But it's really awesome that we can create something out of those barrels because they are really thick plastic barrels that normally would just be thrown away, and we can convert them into rain barrels.
And you can even, you can get things to add on and have them have multiple rain barrels hooked up to the same spout, which is really cool because it rains a lot in South Florida. You'll be amazed at how quick they fill up.
Yes. It does. Means a lot. It may not seem like that recently, but I think we all know if you've been in Florida, it can rain so much.
Do you guys ever do, we've hosted a rain barrel workshop. Do people ever ask you about setting up gray water systems?
No, I don't think so. Since COVID, we've done, everything's pretty much online. So I won't say we don't get a lot of questions anymore.
Just not as much.
Unfortunately, because everyone, everyone fills out their registration form, and then we have the parking lot pickups, and we kind of send everyone on their way. And then I think they go home and have all the resources to set it up themselves. But no, I don't think I've gotten that question.
I've looked into it before, and it seems like unless your house is set up the right way, it could be very difficult to do because it's taking all the water from your shower or your sink, not your toilet, and putting it into a container so that you can use it in the garden instead of it just going down the drain.
No, Missy said maybe everyone could show us how they are doing on their projects. Do we want to?
I would like that. That's a great idea.
Show?
If everyone wants to, you don't have to. I know some people might just be watching. They may not be creating at the moment.
Looks like
Okay.
Jessica's going there.
Trying to do my little jewelry thing.
Well,
It's not
Jessica.
perfect, but my first time doing this, so
I think that totally works.
I'm still putting in the hooks.
And you're getting around cutting stuff by turning those ones on their side.
Yeah, it'll do.
Yeah, it works. Awesome. You're fast at your gluing. Anybody else want to show off what they're doing? It's okay if you don't.
I will in like 30 seconds. I'm finishing up this row.
All right.
Yes. Sorry, I have a little boy in the background.
No worries.
Yes, we would love to see pictures. I know, we may not be able to get through everything in this hour. So if you guys do finish up after the program, we would love to see pictures.
Yes, I know Savannah took some pictures of me making, so I will definitely take a picture of the finished product and make sure we post that and tag the city. We'll send it in an email too. And Elaine, you're gonna have to get over here and make a cork board.
I know, I do need to. I need to pick up my supplies. And again, if you guys have not been to Resource Depot, I mean, if you have even just like a small craft in mind, you don't have to go to the store and buy, like usually you have to end up buying just big bags of things, but Resource Depot has items in small quantities, big quantities often. So that's what's really great about Resource Depot too.
If you are an avid maker, we recommend people come to us first. And then if you don't find what you need from us, then you can go to like Home Depot or Michael's or whatever. That's usually our strategy. And you'd be surprised how much you can actually find, or it wasn't what you thought you were looking for, but you find it. And some corks, you guys will notice too, like have cool designs on them. If you like find out which corks those are, if you drink a lot of wine, you can save those particular corks, and then that can be part of your design, is whatever the designs are on the corks. And some of them have designs on like the end of the cork too. So when you slice it, you get that also. Because this one, it says hope right there. That was already on the cork when we cut it. So
That's so cool.
but again, you could stamp them too.
Here's my finished.
Lovely.
Oh,
I like it. And you did a decorative paper back there, right?
I had some duct tape with some leaves on it, so it looks nice. I don't really mind it showing too much.
Yeah, I think it's nice when it comes through. If Britt's on the call, I don't know if Britt Feingold's on the call, but she took a map to put behind hers when she came yesterday to pick up her kit. So yeah, she is a teacher, so she may have gotten caught up in her professional development day. So I don't know if she's on with us.
She may have been on earlier, but maybe she had to jump off.
Are there other familiar? I haven't scanned through to see who was on. Okay, awesome. So yeah, I have this much done. I have a quarter done. The rest is still, I tend to be complicated, so.
Any last minute questions for Chelsea before we go?
And again, Elaine will send you guys my email, so if you have any questions afterwards too.
well, thank you all for doing this. It was fun. And I learned something new today. Let's see it. Let's see it. Oh, it's finished.
Thank you. Mine is just in the development stages.
Oh, I like that.
Awesome.
It's gonna be a little Christmas cork tree, and then we'll let the jewelry decorate.
Perfect. Yeah, you can use it to display your, it's a good way to display Christmas cards or holiday cards you get in the mail too. But yeah, you could totally make a full size, like on the wall, cork board of a tree. And then put all your Christmas cards on it. That would be cool. You need a lot of corks.
Well, thank you all. I have to run, but thanks a lot.
Thank you so
I'll
much.
see you at Resource Depot.
Yes, I look forward to that. Thank you guys.
Bye-bye. Merry Christmas. Have a happy holiday.
Thank you. So long.
And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I want to see pictures of your finished product. No pressure.
Everything's in boxes because we move in a week.
Oh, yeah, you're going to have to wait a while on that then.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.